Universities. Places of higher education, seats of learning, where the brightest young minds go to be honed, to become their generation's geniuses, entrepreneurs and leaders. Now, one university here in England, the University of Manchester, has come under fire after one of its students graduated in what has been nicknamed a PhD in masturbation. At the risk of being crude, I've always assumed that when people hit puberty, they take up the aforementioned activity, but as a hobby. Because unless you're an attractive young woman from Eastern Europe or Latin America in possession of a 4K webcam and a ring light, I don't think you will have considered self-abuse as a viable career option. I definitely didn't think that jacking, or indeed jilling off, because girls do it too, was something requiring academic research. So this gentleman is Carl Anderson, and take a good look at him, because trust me, in the next few minutes you're going to really dislike this guy. So for his university project, he would toss off every day for 3 months, and after he'd fired his batter cannon, he would then indulge in reflective self-criticism, where he would document his thoughts and emotions. So this guy went to university to keep a wanking diary. But there were certain parameters for his experiment. These were, first of all, he couldn't have sex with anyone for the 3 months. Now, looking at him, I doubt that was overly hard to achieve. And secondly, he wouldn't be using any regular pornography. So, no Pornhub, RedTube, Tube Safari, Xvideos, Xhamster, XNXX, or any other porn sites, which of course I only learned about today researching this video. No, Carl was using a very niche type of Japanese erotica. And being Japanese, you already know it's going to be fucking weird, no pun intended. Because I think we've all stumbled across Japanese pornography in the past that features women with very squeaky voices and pixelated genitals. Just on that, do you remember several years ago there was a rumour that Lady Gaga was a transvestite? So in one of her music videos, she flashed her gash at the camera. But of course the image had to be pixelated. Now, I watched that video and remembered thinking, I didn't realise she was Asian. However, Carl's wrist-led research isn't that type of pornography. He's into a type of illustrated erotica, and I'm uncomfortable with the word because there's nothing erotic about what I'm about to discuss. And of course the most common cartoon porn from Japan is hentai. And for me, anyone who gets off on that should be shot, because it mostly depicts schoolgirls getting molested. But that's not what our new best friend has been beating his meat to. He's into something even more niche called shoto. And shoto is a type of erotica, and again, I'm not comfortable with that word, which focuses on prepubescent boys. Boys who are coming up to puberty, when there's that big confusing rush of hormones. And these cartoons show these boys being hit on and picked up and seduced by adult women and adult men. So this fucking weirdo has gone to university so he can stroke his spunk trumpet looking at cartoons of what we in the West would call child abuse. I said you wouldn't like him. So when Mr. Anderson has finished smashing one out and is recording his innermost thoughts and feelings in his jerk-off journal, I hope that one very common thought is that maybe he should step off a stool and hang from the ceiling like a perverted piñata. Because normally when I discuss a subject, in this case shoto, I'd hold my hand up and an image would appear there. Not today. That shit is going nowhere near my fucking channel. And if you wonder, how does this genre even exist? Well, it's because in parts of Japan, the age of consent is 13 years old. All over Japan, there are vending machines which sell used, unwashed schoolgirls' underwear. Now, I'm not criticising the Japanese, because I'm a Westerner. That's a culture I simply don't understand. But the man in question isn't in Japan. He's in the northwest of fucking England. He's about an hour and a half that way. Now, I know there'll be some bleeding heart woke bastards saying they're only illustrations. It's not the same as the real thing. But for me, this has got a very noncy vibe, and that's what he's choosing to get himself off to. I mean, if those illustrations were really photographs, he would be spending years at Her Majesty's pleasure. And the second important point is if you live in Great Britain and you're a taxpayer, you helped pay for it. You see, in order to pleasure himself for a quarter of a year, Carl received funding from the University of Manchester's Arts and Culture, that's Arts and Culture Department, which is funded by the British taxpayer. So that means some emeritus professor has looked at his proposal and agreed to release funding so that this self-indulgent weirdo could write down his thoughts and feelings whilst participating in a 3-month sponsored wankathon over a subject matter that anyone with a shred of fucking decency would find morally repugnant. Rather unsurprisingly, there's been a huge backlash against the university, and I fully agree with that backlash. Because we're now living with the highest interest rate since the 1970s. It's predicted that half of the homes in the UK will be in fuel poverty by this winter, and a record number of people are relying on food banks. So surely that money could have been better spent rather than indulging a navel-gazing pervert who wants to make his special sock extra sticky. I've said for years that the people who run this country, the politicians, the ministers, the local councils and such like, they're mostly a bunch of wankers. And now it transpires you can go to university and get professionally fucking qualified. As ever, thanks for watching.